Καλημέρα και από μένα. Ελπίζω να ακούγομαι. Είμαι ο Γιώργος Σαββίδης και μαζί θα προχωρήσουμε στο session Robotics and Computer Vision με τον κύριο Σiciliano. Όπως ίσως ήδη γνωρίζετε, η ομιλία του κυρίου Siciliano θα πραγματοποιηθεί στα αγγλικά, οπότε, όπως είναι φυσιολογικό, και εγώ με τη σειρά μου θα συνεχίσω την παρουσίασή μου σε αυτά. Okay, so beginning with our first speaker in the conference and this session of Robotics and Computer Vision, I would like to warmly welcome Mr. Siciliano. Professor Bruno Siciliano is the director of the Interdepartmental Center for Robotic Surgery, as well as coordinator of the Laboratory of Robotic Projects for Industry, Services and Mechatronics at the University of Naples. He is also honorary professor at Obuda University, where he holds the Kalman Chair, and he will be presenting us his talk titled as "The Future is Now, Robotics, AI and Automation." At this point, I would like to brief everyone on the fact that you can submit your questions throughout the talk's duration so that Mr. Siciliano may answer them at the end of his talk. Okay, that's it. So, Mr. Siciliano, whenever you're ready, you can share your screen in order to initialize the presentation.
Yes.
Okay, we're seeing fine. You can start.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Kalimera. Good morning, everybody, and it's my great pleasure to talk to you this morning. I wish I could have been physically with the Greek community of students. But unfortunately, we have to bear the emergency of the post-pandemic. So at least it's good that we can get together this morning online. I hope you can find this talk interesting and inspirational. This is at least my hope and my humble wish. So we have technology, and we are concerned and we are projected into the future. So what I'm going to talk about is that the future is much closer than you would think about. So the future is now, and some challenging contributions towards a sort of better future where we can make a good use of technology is provided by robotics, AI, and automation. I want you to get into the mood of what robots can do for us, and how robots are already with us, within us and among us, by showing this video, which you will see 5 minutes of the most challenging and I would say coolest applications of robotics in the last decade or so. Can you hear the sound? So this was just to get some inspiration about what robotics can do. I'm talking to you from Napoli in Italy. So Napoli is in all ways is my home. The city of Napoli is the third largest city in Italy. We have about 1 million of inhabitants, and since we are all in the Mediterranean, we very much share, and actually we've been a pole of our culture, of the Mediterranean culture. And I know that I can speak very much also for beautiful Greek country. We are also the home to historical and holiday sites. Of course, because of COVID, now tourism is a kind of low. Nevertheless, we hope that thanks to the vaccination campaign in Europe, as we hope so, soon the people can come back to Napoli and enjoy what we have. But we are known not only for tourism, but also we have 5 universities based in Napoli and several science institutions. Our university was founded in 1224 by Emperor Federico II. He was a general of the Napoleon army, and I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Emperor Federico II is the Swabian emperor, was like in the 13th century, and he founded this university as the oldest public university in Europe. There are some universities which are older, but they belong to the church, so it was the first laic university. We have a population of about 90,000 students. So 1 out of 11 citizens of the city is a student. The School of Engineering, that's what I meant, was founded in 1811. So 10 years ago, we celebrated 200 years of engineering in Italy. And this was in Napoli. And this was the oldest one in Italy. And it was founded by King Gioacchino Murat, a general of Napoleon army, when we had the Angevin, the French king in the 19th century. We have a population of about 15,000 students, 5,000 of which are graduate students. The university, and professionally speaking, robotics is my big passion, but it's not the biggest passion in my life, because the biggest passion in my life is football, and it's Napoli. I am a supporter of Napoli team, which was founded in 1926, and probably you noticed behind my shoulder the jersey of Napoli. I turned 60 15 months ago, and this was a special gift by the club. By the players, so a jersey of Napoli with 60 and my name and all the signatures of the players. So I can say that robotics and Napoli are my 2 big passions, but actually Napoli is the big one. Is even more important for me than robotics. And I'm in a good mood because last night we asphalted Lazio 5-2, and now we are the final 6 games for the Champions League. But why am I so fond about Napoli? Because as you probably know, as you surely know, Maradona, the best player of the globe, played for Napoli for 7 years, from 1984 to 1991. And of course, we were so saddened, and we very much are suffering from his early passing of last November. So I was emotionally moved because actually my whole life has been positively influenced by this great man, and it was because of him that I refused a chair position in the US when I was a young PhD graduate, because I wanted to stay in Napoli and I wanted to leave those years after Maradona. So I have a nice team of young scientists and scholars working, and this is the Prisma team, and this is a picture taken from our lab with one of our robots. PRISMA stands for Projects of Robotics for Industry, Services, Mechatronics, and Automation. We are active not only in engineering, but we are also active in medicine. Since 5 years, we have an interdepartmental center for advanced research on robotic surgery. So this is the Icarus Center, which I currently direct. And this is a picture taken in the operating room with the Da Vinci system, which is the system used for robotic surgery. I have written many papers and many books. Of course, I'm kind of fond about what I say, the textbook, because the textbook which we wrote originally in 1995, the first edition, has been now translated. This is just the third edition of the textbook, and it's being translated from English, not only in Italian, but also in Greek. So this is the Greek version of my textbook. And I wish to thank my colleague and good friend, Kostas Kyriakopoulos, who is a professor of robotics at National Technical University of Athens, who has kindly provided the translation, and also has been translated in Chinese. And so I have some regrets because I did my scientific studies. My regrets is that I didn't do classical studies, and so I didn't really study Greek, because if you do classical studies, not only do you study Latin, but also you study Greek. But at least I can say that I have now a Greek classic, which is the Greek translation of my textbook. But life is changing, and especially now because of COVID, we are experiencing the so-called online teaching, which is not easy. It's a kind of tough for teachers, for the instructors, and for the students. So I have since a few years, the contents of my textbook are also available as a MOOC course. A MOOC course is a massive online open course. So this is the so-called web learning education. So you can attend the whole course of robotics foundations into 2 MOOC courses. And I'm just showing you the trailer from my second course, that you get an idea of what is robotics about and what I will be talking about for the rest of my talk.
history, art, culture, architecture, music, and gastronomy. Let me take you on a virtual tour to MAN, the National Archaeological Museum of Naples. And this is one of the masterpieces of the museum, the Farnese Hercules. This massive marble statue depicts a muscular Hercules leaning on his club. He's just performed one of the last of the 12 labors, which is suggested by the apples of the Hesperides he holds behind his back. Hercules is firmly grasping the apples in his hand by applying the proper amount of strength. So this is a ball like one of Hercules' apples, and I'm going to place the ball at the tip of a slender stick. And I'm trying to hold the stick from the bottom by achieving a sort of dynamic balance. That's quite tough. And this is beyond the capabilities of an average human. Only a juggler can succeed in performing this task. Maybe a robot manipulator can likewise perform this task. Not only will we need models of the robot manipulator like those that we studied in the first part of our MOOC course, but also we need planning, sensing, and control, like those dealt with in the second part of our Robotics Foundation MOOC course. So you will learn how to interpolate a trajectory in the joint space and how to design a motion controller for the free space. On the other hand, if the robot manipulator is interacting with the environment, we will need an operational space control scheme. What are the two key ingredients for this kind of scheme? Force and visual feedback, like those that you can see the juggler is applying to perform this task successfully. To successfully perform this kind of advanced manipulation task, we need sensory motor skills beyond those of the humans. So I'm going to take you to virtually on a tour in Prisma Lab at University of Naples Federico II. My student has just released the stick, and the robot is successful in holding the stick from the bottom and stabilizing this dynamically. Rodiman is a bimanual humanoid platform having 2 arms, 2 hands, a torso, a sensorized head, and a mobile base. The wheels allow the robot to reach an extended portion of the workspace. So in the final part of the course, you will learn about wheel mobile robots, and you will learn how to design control algorithms for this kind of robot. Once again, welcome to Robotics in Napoli. I hope you will enjoy this 2-part course, and thank you very much indeed.
So I apologize for the sound. Actually, probably you missed also a nice soundtrack to the 5-minute video of Robots With Us in the beginning. But I will, the staff of this event have the slides. So you're free to share the slides with the students if they want to see the video again with sound. So the textbook has been an important portion of my life. But actually, the highest professional achievement is by all means the handbook, the Spring Handbook of Robotics. This is a nice picture which was taken at the foot of Mount McKinley in Alaska, in US, in North America. And together with my colleague and good friend, Usama Khatib from Stanford University, we are the 2 editors of the handbook. We flew with a small aircraft, and we landed at the foot of the highest peak in the US. And this is a kind of Photoshop touch of the picture in which they replaced the name of the airway and the logo with the name of the handbook and the Springer logo. The handbook received an important award. This is the so-called PROSI Award, which is given annually by the American Association of Publishers to the best books for each category. So we won the award for engineering technology, but actually the sweetest surprise was the winning of the general award. So it's like the Oscar of the Oscars for physical sciences and mathematics. And in our opinion, this was the consecration of robotics as a science. But what is robotics? Robotics is defined in the modern time as the intelligent connection of perception to action. So this is this scheme shows the very essence of robotics. So for a robotic system, we have three ingredients. One is the sensors, because that's the way, the perception, but thanks to which, for instance, if I'm thirsty, I have some visual data, so I see what is the glass of water, and also I have the possibility of touching the glass of water. So this is from Greek, aptikos. So this is optical data that I need. So this is sensing perception. Then I must actuate emotion. So I need some motor commands from the brain which allow the arm to be moved and eventually grasp the glass of water. So the second ingredient is the action, is the actuation. But of course, the task is successfully performed if we have intelligence, if we have control. So there are some commands from the brain that reach the mechanical system and allow us to grasp the water and drink it. So there is a lot of talk in the media and also in the scientific literature about AI, about artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? Is the we can say the dream of designing computers which mimic the functions and the logics of the human mind. So we have the intelligence. So we find here in the very definition, the very essential definition of artificial intelligence, one of the essential components of robotics, intelligence. But as I emphasized, intelligence is not enough if you don't have sensing. And the human use their five senses. And this is a sort of paroxystic view of the importance of human senses. This is a study from our neuroscientist friends. This is called the cortical homunculus. So this homunculus has senses proportional to their importance. So you can see the hands, you can see the tongue, you can see the eyes, you can see the nose, and you can see the ears. And no surprise, the most important sense which allows us to intelligently interact with the world, with the environment, is not vision, but it's touch. So the hands play the most important role in sensing and perception. So here we have a sort of challenge, because we have AI, we have robotics, and probably you know the very well-known three fundamental laws of robotics, which were formalized by the most famous writer of science fiction about cybernetics. This was Isaac Asimov. But also we have the technology, we have engineering. And the thing is that we cannot merely count on AI, and we cannot leave to AI decisions which may have safety, moral and legal consequences, because we cannot ensure the outcome, because there is a physical reality, there is a physical world. I'll come back to this issue at the end of my talk. So the challenge is to have AI in robotics with the proper technology. So on one hand, we have cognition with all the perception, with all the sensing, but also on the other hand, we have manipulation. We want to make a physical action on the world. And actually, this sort of dichotomy between cognition and manipulation dates back to the old time, and I'm particularly pleased to give this talk to a Greek community because it goes back, the dichotomy between body and mind, it goes back to the two great Greek philosophers of the ancient times. And I'm speaking about Aristotle and Anaxagoras. Aristotle believed that human, being intelligent, develop their capabilities to interact with the world with the hands, with the sense of touch, with the body. Whereas Anaxagoras was of the opposite theory, because he believed that humans became more and more intelligent thanks to the body, and thanks to a sort of embodied intelligence. So this is really remarkable how from Greek philosophers, we can find what is the actual challenge of nowadays between artificial intelligence, alias mind, and robotics, alias body. Of course, both of them using perception, using sensing. So what we believe into is the new challenge of what we call physical artificial intelligence. And it's not just a matter of just saying whether robotics is a part of AI or whether AI is a key enabling technology for robotics. Because in my view, the big challenge is found at the intersection of robotics with AI. And physical artificial intelligence is much harder than artificial intelligence. This is known in the literature as the so-called Moravec's paradox. You remember that Deep Blue was a computer that defeated the world chess champion. So this is just intelligence and sensing, okay, for a computer to defeat the world chess champions. But if we have blind use of AI in robotics, this can become potentially dangerous because we have the body, we have the embodied intelligence, and we have the physical action. And if we speak about physical human-robot interaction, this is a video which I show to my students every year when I start my robotics course. This is 91 years ago. This is which I think modern time. So the challenge is, do we really need a fully autonomous machine? So, I mean, if something goes wrong, maybe autonomy is not a good thing. So what is the challenge? The challenge is to seek for a good sharing of autonomy between human and machine. So, as you probably know, in the last 2 decades, we have observed the development, and I would say the booming of ICT, of interaction and communication technology. But if we add the physical dimension to ICT, the challenge becomes that of what we call the IAT, which stands for interaction technology, in which the A is capitalized in the word interaction to stress the importance of the physical action for human-machine interaction. So it's a sort of transition from the information and communication technology to the interaction technology, thanks to the intersection of robotics with AI, thanks to physical artificial intelligence. So as you saw in the video at the beginning of my talk, we have seen application of robotics not only in industry, but also outside the factories. So robots are gradually moving from factories to reaching our homes. So we have applications of robots in the field for aeronautics, for aerospace, for subsea, for rescue, as you saw in the video, but also we have application of robotics for services. And I'm talking about domestic application of our robots, about another important application of robotics, which is in the so-called edutainment, which is a word which is a clone of education and entertainment. So, and in fact, robots are already taken to the schools, to the kids, to the elementary school kids to learn about the technology, but also we have a social importance for service robotics application in rehabilitation and medicine. What is the challenge when in this ideal move of robots from factories to our homes? As you see below, this three snapshots is the increasing level of autonomy, but we have to be careful about autonomy. So another important issue to talk about is whether thanks or because of robotics and automation, some jobs will be lost. So robots are often regarded, wrongly in my opinion, as job killers. But what are the jobs which are at risk? So there's this video. This video is without sound, so I'll be talking on the video, in which more and more robots are being developed to take over our jobs. But some jobs are safer from automation than others. So what are the safe jobs? The safe jobs are those where we need repetitive action without very much intelligence, without very much physical intelligence. So according to this study, there are some jobs which still require the human. So you take a truck driver, you take a surgeon operating with a robot. Do we have an autonomous car without a person? No, because legally we still require a person on board. The person can relax and can take coffee. The surgeon, if the surgeon is stressed or tired, then the robot is helping. But on the other hand, there are some jobs which are likely to be taken by automation and robotics, because take, for instance, the moving company, like retail and warehouses, then they have to worry about, because those jobs can be taken from humans. So despite the typical stereotype, of course, some jobs will be lost, but at the same time, some jobs will be gained. And I give you an example. Amazon, a big company, just I want to use this word, they hired 500,000 robots in their logistic plants. And then you think that 500,000 jobs were lost. No, because in the same period, 800,000 new jobs were found thanks to the introduction of this technology. So we are very much facing a number of challenges. And I've been in robotics all my life, since I finished my master and my PhD. So it's like 35 years, more than half of my life in robotics. But actually, what's happening now in our community is an outreach towards new communities of users and developers. So we have a number of emerging areas in robotics. And on the left, you can see a non-exhaustive list of those areas like biomechanics, haptics, neurosciences, machine learning, virtual prototyping, animation, surgery, sensor networks. And in my view, the most striking advances will not happen within our own yard, within our own community, but those advances will happen at the intersection of disciplines. So I'm talking to the students, open your mind. If you are in engineering technology, think about opening your mind and looking at the human and the social aspects and what is the impact of this technology. And the future developments and growth of the field will largely depend on the scientific cooperation. And only then, robotics technology will become as ubiquitous and distributed and embedded into smart environments. Now, each of us, everyone has a smartphone, has a tablet. And this is an ubiquitous technology, because you don't make up your mind any longer that, oh, that's a smartphone, that's a tablet. So this is the concept of pervasiveness. This is the concept of ubiquity of this technology. But the final message I want to share with you before wrapping up my talk is about the ethical values of robotics. This is the so-called robo-ethics, which is not the ethics of robots, because robots as machines do not have an ethics themselves. So robo-ethics are the ethical, and not only the ethical, the legal and the societal consequences, issues for those who use the technology, and actually not only the users of the technology, but also the designers and the builders of this technology. So we are moving gradually, as we also saw in the video, towards a world in which humans will cohabit, will cooperate with robots. So this is the challenge of life and robotics, because at the end of the day, a robot wants to be a sort of emulation of the human capabilities of life. So other than thinking about our robots to replace the humans, of course, robots will replace the humans in dangerous jobs, for instance, in a chemical plant or in a nuclear plant. But the future is for an environment, for a world where robots will become more social than solitary, and robots will enhance human work and life rather than replacing us, not only in the factories, but also in our homes, in our hospitals, in our farms, and along the freeways, as you saw in the video. So I apologize for the little glitch at the beginning, and I just want to close this talk with my inspirational motto. This is a motto which has inspired all my life. For those of you in mathematics, you very well know what a gradient is. A gradient is a directional derivative of a function. So my motto that I share with myself, as well as with my students, with my colleagues, and also with my family, with my friends, is keep the gradient. What I mean by keep the gradient is just to go for the positive direction, and to do this for the benefit of the development of technology, but also for the impact and the benefits of this technology on humanity. Thanks very much for your kind attention, and I am available for questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Siciliano, for your interesting talk. Beginning with the audience's questions. The first question I wanted to ask is, and I will send it in chat as well, uncanny valley in human-robot interactions. Sounds terrifying. What is going to be science's actions to avoid this part of the robot evolution?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Actually, I could have even show you a slide with about the uncanny valley. Yeah, I can answer to these questions in a sort of indirect way. What I mean by that, you take humanoids. Humanoids have been designed mainly by Japanese, right? And in fact, the uncanny valley paradox is by a neuroscientist in Japan. This is Takanishi Mori, who just brought to attention this paradox of uncanny valley. So why the Japanese have designed robots to look like humans or to look like animals? Because it's part of their society and it's part of their religion, of their Shintoism, because they believe that machines have a soul. So the external appearance of a machine must be equal to that of a human or of an animal. But there is a danger. This is a kind of scaring aspect that the question is bringing up, because the scare is because if the humanoid, if the animal looks too close to the human or to the animal, then you can no longer distinguish, and you are frightened by the machine. So you don't know whether you're interacting with a machine or with a human. Now, in Japan, it's very much like this. In the Western culture, I think we have a sort of reluctance to interact with the machine. But I want to take you a good example that it's not scaring, and it's not, it's a sort of moving, where up to which point we have this so-called uncanny valley. I take the example, as you probably saw in the video, of using robots for assisting children. So there was one portion of the video in which you saw a robot which was playing with the child. A child was suffering from autism. And because of the friendly behavior and social interaction of the robot, the child was opening. So that is one example. where there was no valley, because actually the more the robot looked like, so it was much better to use a robot other than an animal, a real pet, or maybe a therapist, because it was a case where the child was opening up and was going over their pathology of the autism. So I think it's a sort of transition. Like, for instance, when Sony developed their Aibo is the little dog that I'm speaking about, probably 25 years ago. They sold this Aibo, this dog, in Japan. They sold, like, in half an hour all the units that they were selling. It took 6 months in the Western culture to sell the same number of units, because we are kind of skeptical. For us, the technology must be something like this, which is clearly distinguishable from an anthropomorphic aspect. But now, with the millennials, with the new generation, people and youngsters and kids are more used about technology. So I think they are less frightened, and little by little, step by step, we can accept this technology to look more like a human. But of course, that's the challenge. It's only when, other than be scared, we see the advantages of having one day one robot companion. So you read in the news sometimes that babysitters are not treating children well, or caregivers are beating the elderly people. That's not good, that's bad. So maybe a machine can ethically behave better than a human. So that's the challenge. And as you see, this is not a challenge only for us, for the engineers, for the experts of technology. This is a challenge which goes very much beyond the boundaries of engineering and technology, because it involves the social sciences, it involves the philosophy, it involves the politicians, and it involves also the economical impact of using this technology.
Okay, thank you very much for the interesting answer. One last question, and it's a bit of a funny one, but you may like it, is in how many years do you think we will see robots playing football? And maybe for Napoli, I don't know if you approve this, I don't know.
I mean, about at the beginning of this millennium, in 2000, there was a statement that they say that by 2050, so in 50 years from 2000, we will have a football match with robots. I personally, I mean, I don't think that this will ever happen, but what I think it will happen will be the use of technology. So right now we have the technology use for the so-called VAR, the video assisted referees, okay? But actually I can report that technology can be used also for improving the human performance. I'm speaking about, for instance, wearable robots, exoskeletons, in which the athletes can wear the exoskeletons. So it's not only the prosthesis, you know, this kind of implantable robots, like for instance the athlete Pistorius, but it's also about the wearable robots that you can check the progress. For instance, if an athlete has an accident, you can check the progress and the recovery of the athlete. Also, for instance, you can use drones, you can use flying robots to see the tactics and the performance of a team. So again, you know, I don't think that the challenge is not a replacement of the human, a replacement of the player, is a technology assisting the human. So it's like, for instance, I spoke about robotic surgery. Now, don't even think that the robot, it's, you know, some people, some patients are scared because they want to be operated by human, not by a machine. But the machine can be a very accurate aid for a surgeon to operate, for the tired surgeon, for the unexperienced surgeon. So we have to look at this technology not as, of course, I mean, football is art. Football is a performance. So it doesn't make sense to replace art and performance with a human. But for instance, you can train a robot to save the penalties. If Messi, who is probably #1 player in the world, there was a video which I saw in which Messi was not able to score one penalty against a goalkeeper because with the visual tracking, the goalkeeper was tracking in the 11 meters from the penalty spot to the goal. That's enough time for the machine to save Messi's penalty. So of course you can train a player just against the machine, but that's only to improve and enhance human performance. So this is something which must not be forgotten.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answer. Okay, I think this wraps it up. Again, I would like to thank you very much, Mr. Siciliano, for your talk and your time. Okay, so moving on with the conference schedule, we will be having a small 2-minute break, and we'll get back to you with the session of robotics and computer vision with Mr. Ioannis Patras. Also, I would like to inform you that the second room of the conference, the Alan Turing room, has opened, and the session of Smart Grid will take place there, or is rather taking place right now, so that anyone interested in it may join. So see you in 2 minutes.